Hi, welcome to our little podcast today. My name is Heidi Crockett. I am the current women's coach here for soccer at NHTI. And with me is Steve Ambra, who was my predecessor, who actually started the program.
Yeah.
And with that said, what made you start the program?
Actually, women's equity in sports. I had tried to start a soccer program here earlier, and the person who was the head of athletics said, well, you know, we could do maybe 6-on-6 women's soccer, and I said, not interested. And then Paul came here, and I went in and talked to them and said, we need a women's program, and he said, not only do we need a women's soccer program, but we need sport equity all the way across the board for men and women. So that was a huge accomplishment, and you know, Paul being Paul, I was on board immediately.
That's a good statement. Paul being Paul, that's Paul Hogan, our AD. Actually, he's the reason I came here, because you had to go have your hip replaced or something.
I had bone spurs in my hip, had to have a hip replacement, and I had dislocated my shoulder, so I was in sad shape.
So you were in sad shape. So Paul Hogan messaged me on Facebook to ask if I would come on board, because he knew of me and knew my family. And Steve was very wonderful at introducing me to some of the kids, actually, and coming out, and he still supports the program quite a bit.
Well, I had known you for years anyway. And,
as adversaries, yes.
Yeah.
We played against each other quite a few times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting, and interestingly, some of the same players between different colleges and programs, and in summer.
Yes,
we
exactly.
Had, I always thought summer soccer was great fun.
I was just thinking of that the other day, because we haven't had that league to participate in, which we did back in the day, and we've really missed that. You were on a podcast earlier with Paul Hogan.
Yep.
And one of the things you were discussing was how our season is sort of like two seasons, because we have our season up until playoffs, and then we have a huge layoff, 2, sometimes 3 weeks between that and nationals, which we've been both very fortunate to attend quite a few times. What were the kind of things that you did during that period, that 2-3 week period, to keep the girls motivated?
I think the first part was developing a 2-season program, and you know, we were never really considered a soccer powerhouse, and so when I was out recruiting, how do you bring people to a new program? And I was really looking for quality athletes, looking for someone who really wanted to enhance their college experience. And fortunately, we were able to put together really an outstanding group of women who were just phenomenal players. And I think it was that period of time when we went 3 years without a loss during the regular season. And it was at that point my recruiting changed, and also my message to the team was that we really have 2 seasons. One is we have to take care of the Yankee Conference. We have to win the Yankee Conference, and we feel that we're going to win the Yankee Conference, so we have to prepare for the eventual people that we know we're going to be facing. And those teams, we're like Southern Virginia. They're 4-year scholarship teams.
These are the teams that you would face at nationals. At nationals, yes.
And so that's what we would prepare for. And we prepare for them during the regular season, so that our opponents that we play in the Yankee Conference or the independents that we would play, we would be still gearing up towards, without taking our eyes off of the game that we were playing, but knowing that we had to be physically fit, mentally ready for the second season. And I always tried to get with Paul to make sure that we had an ability to pick up extra games.
Yes, he's very good at that. Yes,
So,
especially with the D3 schools. like
Yeah.
Plymouth and yes, because I
Yeah.
remember I coached at Plymouth,
Yeah.
and you were there, and
Yeah.
at NEC, New England College
Yeah.
as well. You played against them.
Sure. So we were just looking for teams to play against, to make sure that we, didn't lose our step. But also it was how to develop mentally, make sure that we're mentally
Yes.
ready. So we did a lot of interesting things. We would go, we'd go to the Y, the whole team would go swimming, we'd go apple picking, but we'd also get together and we would strategize. We'd just talk about soccer. We'd talk about what we're looking forward to accomplishing. And it really was, people come and go over the years, and you know how that is with NHTI. But we were like a big family,
Yes.
and that was the most important thing.
That's a key word here. I think that's one thing I strive to do too. And when I recruit, that's one of the things I speak of, because we are small enough where we can do that. Some of the kids are like, well, why would I want to go to somewhere that small? And my answer is because, believe it or not, when you get to college, it's nothing like high school. You have a lot more time to get in trouble or not, but with your soccer family, you always have someone there to keep you grounded and to have your back. And I think that's made a huge impression on these kids, because I'm not sure about you, but I've had almost, I think, half dozen kids play 4 years, literally come back and get another degree, which cracks me up completely. And that's been very exciting. But your statement about we keep seeing kids, I've had a couple kids actually not come back and then come back 2 or 3 years later and still want to play. So that's what's another really cool thing about NHTI, where we're able to do that.
Well, they have their eligibility, and given the programs and given what we offer here at the college, it makes it possible for them to come back. So I'm trying to think of the oldest person I had play, and I'm going to say that she was probably in her maybe late 40s.
Wow.
And she was in radiology program, but she came back. She had eligibility, and she played, and she was very accomplished. So
we've had a couple mothers, I think,
Oh,
on the
yes.
team. Exactly. So it is an excellent place for people to come experience something that they might not otherwise have the courage to experience.
So we didn't have nursing mothers as they had at in Maine, at UMaine Augusta. We actually had a player come off because she had to nurse, and which was interesting. But
So I had a curious question. Who was your biggest competition? Who was the team that you loved, hated the most to play?
that is a really good question, because I'll turn the question around and ask you as well.
My answer is
But-
really simple. Southern Maine and NHTI have developed a very, very competitive relationship, and it's very respectful. In fact, all of the coaches are very respectful in the Yankee Conference, which I absolutely love. We get along very well. We compete hard. But Southern Maine has developed into quite the program. Central Maine is also coming along very well. And they are just, the kids get geared up when they want to play them. It always seems like we end up facing them in the playoffs. Wasn't Paul Smith one of your...
Paul Smith's was always challenging. There was more, I think it's because the way the field is set up. The students would come in, and they'd come in early, and they'd park their cars around the field, or they'd park their trucks around the field, and they would have...
That's up in New York, yes.
Up in New York,
yes,
and they would have their libations, and they'd be ready for the game. And that was the strangest field, because you could take a corner, and you would be standing on one corner, you'd look across, and you would see a player on the other side of the field, and all you would see would be the top of her head because the field sloped down so much. It was
And they still have the
difficult.
same field, and it still has that same issue.
That was their old vegetable garden
Yeah.
for, I was told, that was their vegetable garden for the hotel when it was there, and they just covered it over. And but I would say for us, the two teams that were provided us the most interesting challenges were Unity.
Oh, that's interesting.
The field there is very strange because it's a downhill field, as you know, and it's got ledge that comes out in various spots. So you're actually playing on rock.
I wonder if they moved the field since I came.
It was up.
It is up,
It's
but
up-
or
up
they
on the
must have
pass,
done some work on
But
it.
it was a downward sloping field, and
Right.
Jeremy was the coach at the time.
Jeremy had
And,
come back again and
yes,
again, yes.
And they were always ready for NHTI. They always considered
Physical.
us very physical.
Right.
And I would say one of our best wins was they had I think 20 players on the bench, and we came up during midweek with 9 players, and they were laughing. Their team was laughing, and our players said, "Coach, what are we going to do?" And I said, "We're going to win, and I'll tell you exactly how you're going to win." And we won on a set piece, 1-0.
Just played defense and then.
Played
yeah.
defense and aggressive on a set piece, and that was it. And they were stunned. The other team was just totally stunned. The other team that was a powerhouse when they came in was Vermont.
Oh.
So they were physically tough. They were well coached, and they always were a very difficult team.
It's
So-
interesting how through the years the teams that they changed, because Maine Machias was kind of scary when I first started, as was Paul Smith, but Vermont was I think they were struggling with numbers at the time.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you talk about your numbers, because my first year we ran into injuries, and we ended up at some point playing with 9. But we went undefeated that season, and we won the championship. We did not go to the nationals. We did get a bid, but we just did not have the people. We kept, our ankles were just not working. But you know, it's true. The other thing is the heart the girls here seem to have.
Yeah.
I coach a lot of teams, and each year I keep saying, this is the best team. This is the best team. And each year I fall in love with the kids. You know, we have probably 5-6 kids return, and the rest are new, and I mean, it just turns over. I always say our job's harder than the D2, D1, D3, because we do have to recreate the wheel every single year.
That is a real problem, reinventing the
Right.
wheel.
But there again, I do think that we give them the experience of their lives. And, you know, you went to the Nationals, I don't know how many times, quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yes, we've gotten a bid every year, but we've only gone 3 times because I won't take them if it's, if we don't have, you know, the personnel. So, you know, we've been very, very successful, both, I think, on and off the field. Our GPA's been up, which is huge for both of us. I mean, we, I don't know, did you have study halls?
We had study vans. So we had one van that was a fun van, and
Right.
they had one van that was a study van.
That's too funny.
And they would go up, we'd take 2 vans, and the one would be absolutely quiet. They'd be studying, they'd
Right.
be doing math, they'd be doing whatever else. The other one would be rocking.
Which van was yours?
I got the rocking van.
I can imagine, yes.
And I mean, we'd be stopped, and the van would actually be going side to side like that, and people would be looking at us, and we'd be going, yeah, great time, good time.
The van rides are
But, you know, that's one of the
wonderful.
things about recruiting. Able to talk to the prospective students and talk to them about, one of the questions that I'm always asked, and you probably get the same thing, is when you have to write a recommendation, is how does this person or how does this person perform in a group setting? And when you're able to talk about seeing them on the field playing as a team, and this is largely true for the recommendations in the health sciences. So for nursing and radiology and the others, you're able to talk about exactly how they can perform in a group setting. And when you're doing the original recruiting, they may not think a whole lot about that, but as they get closer to making a decision, it becomes very important.
I agree. Well, it's been wonderful talking and chatting, and hopefully we can do it again, because it's been a terrific experience as far as coaching for me here, and I have a feeling.
Well, I'm so glad that you followed in my footsteps, if you will. Even if I was sort of haltingly walking, but I think that it has afforded great continuity to the program, and it really offers so much for our students. I mean, just as a quick aside, we had one player ended up in playing for the U.S. in the Australian Gold Cups, and she was originally from Claremont,
right?
Who had originally decided, no, I'm not going to be playing soccer, and her coach was I think Laurie St. Pierre, who said, make sure you recruit her because she will be a phenomenal player. And you know, you spend all this time talking with visiting and going to see them play in different sports and all this, and it's so important to say you can have an opportunity. You can.
She took that experience and ran with it.
She did.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you gave it to her.
Well, I gave her the opportunity and she seized it.
Exactly. Well, again, it's been great talking to you. And,
always a pleasure.
It is.